What is up, my dashing dudes and darling dames? I am the Hans TV, and I thought that we should start your week off right with some inane idiocracy. It's r/stories about Kevin. Our first post for today comes from Fred's Red, who seems to be a staple of the channel. Kevin uses power tools and almost loses a finger. This happened in 2005 when I was 15. I had just started my second year at a new school, and this year we were given more options for electives we could take. I chose cooking, art, and woodwork for my electives. I should mention that I'm a female and was the only girl in the class with 12 boys to compete with. I wasn't intimidated, as I come from a family of builders and electricians, so I knew how to use power tools and had built furniture before this. The first week in that class was a bit rough, as the boys didn't think I'd know what to do. But I quickly put them in their place as they realized I knew more than they did about the task at hand. We were all building our own small table. There was this one boy in our class that wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. This was realized when he tried to take me under his wing on the first day of class. I decided to play along with his attempt at teaching me the things for the first few lessons, out of curiosity to what he thought he knew, and damn, I'm glad I did. Here are a few of the things that he so wisely got wrong. When using sandpaper, you start with 320 grit and work your way down to 60 grit. You read that right. He was so adamant that he was right that he spent the first lesson sanding with the superfine sandpaper and gradually built up the grit until his wood was as harsh as a horse brush. Every time the teacher, myself, or another student told him he was doing it wrong, he'd snap at them that he knew what he was doing. This only lasted one lesson until he started doing it the right way. He wouldn't use the safety tools when using the table saw and almost cut off his own finger. When using a table saw, it's important to use a push block or a spare piece of wood to push the wood along the bench toward the saw while it's going, so your fingers don't get close to the blade. This was the first thing the teacher told us, but Kevin didn't listen. No fingers were lost in the making of this post, but let's just say that Kevin quickly got banned from using the table saw on his own after he got a bit too close to the blade. Kevin, don't run inside. I don't know why Kevin thought that running inside the tool shed was a good idea, especially when the floor was coated in sawdust. Kevin got sent to the principal's office for running from the wood room to the workbenches while holding a stack of wood. He was lucky that he didn't seriously hurt himself when he slipped on the floor and hit the back of his head on the stone floor. I'm surprised he didn't pass out or drop the pile of wood on his head. If he were running on the other side of the room, he could have been impaled by one of the tools that were against the other wall. No, Kevin, PVA glue and sawdust is not silly putty. When the time came for us to touch up the cracks and screw holes in wood, our teacher showed us how to make our own wood filler by mixing sawdust with PVA glue, which was something that Kevin found great pleasure in. He reminded me of a kid discovering paper mache for the first time. The look on his face when he made the gooey paste was like a kid on Christmas Day. He proceeded to squish it in different shapes, roll it into balls, and then throw them at our other classmates. One ball he put in his pocket before he was escorted to the principal's office. I still wonder if he took the ball out of his pocket before it hardened. Top goat doesn't go first, Kevin. Once we were finished with our tables, it came time to paint them. We were given the option to stain and put finish on them or paint them a color and then put varnish on them. Kevin chose option A, but instead of staining first, he did it backwards. He put wood finish on first and then put stain on after that had dried. Of course, that didn't work. The stainer had done nothing to stain after the finish had set to the wood. Those are all I can remember about Kevin's misadventures in that class. I know there were more little things he got wrong and heaps of times he tried to teach me his wisdom, but none as noteworthy as what I've written. For anyone interested, my table turned out fantastic. My mother still has it and uses it as a TV stand. The last time I spoke to her, at least. Now that, my dashing dudes and darling dames, is a prime example of a pure Kevin. Never learns, always in trouble, and always stupid. This next post comes from CapBuddy5. A Kevin-esque individual ascends to school lore. So, let me open by saying this occurred at age 14, which is not the most intelligent of ages, but this guy puts the bar quite low for self-preservation. This guy was generally a troublemaker and always on the radar of the school's vice principal, who controlled the campus comings and goings. One day he attempted to get out of class by jumping from a second-story window. Several times he just tried to outleg the VP during lunch. His peak adventure came from a day he never showed up to school in the first place. We have a strip mall area that kids would hang out at, but it also happened to have a sheriff's office that was rarely staffed. Said Kevin was skipping school and probably committing some minor shoplifting when he ran across a sheriff that was coming in to do some paperwork. Kevin assumed that the sheriff was after him for skipping school or something. Kevin decides it is the best choice to pull a Swiss Army knife or something similar, small ineffective knife, on the sheriff and yell something about never catching him and bolts. The sheriff, caught off guard by a kid brandishing essentially a butter knife at him, allows Kevin to get around the corner and evade him. Kevin is off scot-free of the drama of his own making. That day happened to be a high school football game, and Kevin thought it was a good idea to show up and hang with the older kids. Kevin proceeds to jump the fence of the football field right under one of the field lights, which illuminated him perfectly. The sheriffs had a couple of officers on duty as this was a large gathering and spotted him, and due to the day's earlier incident, decided to intervene. Kevin wasn't around for a year or so, and when he reappeared, it was with a rather fashionable ankle accessory. His antics were school mythology for the younger kids for a couple of years. I'm in college now, and this subreddit reminded me of the things happening in middle school. So you're telling me that this Kevin just straight up pulled a knife on a cop? I'm surprised that he didn't just get tackled. I'm sure the cop was just like, wait, did a 14-year-old kid just pull a knife on me? And then he just bolted. And like, I don't know about y'all, but every single one of my high school football games were monitored by police just to make sure nothing happened. So of course he was going to get caught later. What was he thinking? Oh, right. Our final post for today comes from Kirby Craft Games. Kevin asks where the frozen turkeys are on Thanksgiving Day. Gets mad when I tell him where they are. Honestly, was originally going to post this on Tales from Retail, but when I was telling my friend about the story, they said that this would be a better place for it. So here I am. I work at a grocery store that always gets slammed during the day of a major holiday, or day before if we aren't open on the holiday in question, because every other chain store would be sold out from last minute panic buying as well. I was just finishing up restocking what I could in the baking aisle, since that's where most of the demand comes from, and I was about to start getting ready to close when a Kevin came up and asked me, "Where are your frozen turkeys?" They'd be in the frozen food section, in the little bunker in the middle of the aisle, I politely said, albeit questioning why anyone would want to buy a frozen turkey at 4 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day. They wouldn't be able to cook it fully unless they deep fried it immediately once they came home, and that was still a snowball's chance in hell. No, the Kevin said. I don't mean those frozen turkeys. I mean the other kind of frozen turkey. Right. I'm sorry, sir, I said. Those are the only frozen turkeys we have. If you wish, we might have some hams in our meat department that are thawed and should be good for your Thanksgiving dinner. I don't want a stupid ham. I want a proper frozen turkey. Your hams are properly frozen, yet I see no turkeys. It was then that I realized he meant refrigerated turkeys, not frozen ones. Sir, we don't sell refrigerated turkeys. We only have the ones in our frozen section. Why wouldn't you have a good and proper frozen turkey? Kevin asked, infuriated by the simple information given to him. Popular chain superstore sells them and they're all third out. Because they're a ginormous superstore, while we're a much smaller grocery store, I explained. Now, unless you have another question, I need to get back to work. Kevin left in a huff, muttering something about how we lost a customer because we didn't sell what he wanted. I let out a sigh of relief before hearing someone behind me ask, "Excuse me, sir, where are your frozen turkeys?" I nearly lost my head before recognizing the voice as my grandfather's, who apparently was listening to the whole conversation while choosing a refrigerated ham from Thanksgiving dinner. We laughed for a while about it before I had to get ready to close up the store, and he had to go back to his house to get ready for Thanksgiving. I swear to you, I don't understand how some of these Kevins are still alive. Yeah, can you give me a frozen turkey? Yeah, they're over there in that aisle. No, a properly frozen one, with the hams. Did you mean refrigerated? Well, alright, my Dash News and Knowing Dames, that is going to do it for today's episode of r/Stories About Kevin. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and if you did, I'm going to link them in the description as always. And if you liked the video, feel free to subscribe, share, drop a like, and a comment down below what would you like to see me read next. A humongous thank you to everyone who's continued to subscribe and who keeps on subscribing to my channel and keeps watching my things. That makes me so happy to know that y'all are still enjoying my content, and it really makes me happy as a creator to know that y'all do. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.